get so many people looking in Klaviyo at the delivery rate and they see 98 or 99%. Our deliverability is fine. We get like 99%. We literally send customers a riddle, right? Reply to the email if you know the correct answer. We got 483 responses. WhatsApp is really big in the UK and Europe. It's what I used to talk with my mom, with my friends,
Yes.
which is unlocking a whole new retention channel for all of these brands within the European market. Spam filters will look at what happens within the first few minutes of that email landing in the inbox. Trying to send to unengaged segments on its own, that will 100% kill your reputation.
If you're a really big company, multi-million, like 100 million plus, at a certain point it might be important to start splitting your internal domain that you're using for your whole company. Right, so Bogdan, man, another episode.
Welcome back to Klaviyo Geeks episode 4. Episode 4.
And actually, from all these, like we're of course in a different
We made a non-official plan to have like these sort of special editions. You know, first episode was in Amsterdam.
Yeah.
Right. We had the third episode. Was it third? I think so. Yeah. In London.
Yeah.
And now we're filming the fourth episode in Valencia.
In Valencia.
You can hear the boat behind us, which hopefully.
In the port of Valencia, actually. Really nice. And what's happening here?
So we're attending an e-commerce conference. Omar was actually a speaker today.
Yeah.
Just wrapped up. Beautiful speech, by the way, man. Loved it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And
about Klaviyo, of course.
About Klaviyo and about AI and about all the changes that are happening soon
and cool things that are coming out. Definitely.
Obviously, you know, being on a podcast called Klaviyo Geeks, we will cover all of these as well at some point. But today, because we got some feedback that we're not teasing enough what the episode is going to be about, I'm going to essentially give away the topic of today, and we're going to talk about deliverability. We got a lot of comments about our take on deliverability, so Omar and I sat down and we put together a bunch of mistakes that we see in about, I would say, 90% of Klaviyo accounts. Most of the time, a lot of brands don't really do these correctly. So I'm going to cover some of them. You're going to cover some of them.
Yeah.
But before we dive into that, let's see what's been happening with you lately. Obviously, we're now in Valencia. It's beautiful. People are looking at us.
Yeah.
So what's been happening in the agency in your life? Give a very quick update.
I think that I'm really excited, and it's been out for a while. But basically, also what I talked about is Klaviyo B2C, CRM for B2C, basically. What that entails and what it empowers us to do. Basically, marketing analytics, allowing us to go deeper. But if we run the monthly meetups, one of the things that I like to do is basically go over like the new updates that come out. So is it like room to do that now, or is it?
Yeah. Let's go into So one of the segments of our podcast moving forward, we're going to talk about Klaviyo updates and cool new things that Klaviyo has released. They often have the knack of releasing features without literally letting anyone know. So we're going to be your eyes and ears on shipping new Klaviyo features.
The two things that I want to cover today is like multi-language. They introduced a format or something, and of course being able to talk to you about it right now without showing it on screen is a bit strange, but it is basically is an option where if you're doing something multilingual, you're able to create multiple versions of your email within that one email, basically allowing you to translate the different fields of your email, and it will auto-detect which language is being sent or which language the profile is getting, and then it switches that language automatically. And the second thing that I am happy to hear, WhatsApp, it's in beta right now, but WhatsApp is coming. They opened it up as a beta, and actually it allows us, especially in Europe, to also use another additional channel besides the other channel we already have. So I think if I look at the conversation or the talk that I had here, talking about the positioning of Klaviyo being in the middle, and all these channels and all this information data that we have on the other side of things, like it's now push notification, we can send direct mail, we can do SMS, we can do email, and now WhatsApp as well. It's basically allowing us to tailor right channel, right person, right message And also with the AI things now, it's also really tailoring that message to that person. So,
and how easy it will be to actually implement WhatsApp. Think about it, if you're a brand and you already have your checkout abandonment welcome flow set up, you can literally just take a screenshot of those emails, put it into ChatGPT and ask it to create a WhatsApp sequence for you.
Yeah.
It's literally as simple as that. And I'm 100% sure Klaviyo is going to double down on these type of best practices on how you can launch, because at the end of the day, they're going to be successful, the brand is going to be successful if you actually manage to go live as soon as possible, because it might be overwhelming for a lot of people in the beginning.
I think that the cool thing is, like, of course, SMS is text. We can send a bit of images as well. Costs more. WhatsApp will probably have more functionality, and it'll probably be a little bit more richer than SMS or MMS.
Yeah, I think so. I think just to mention, a lot of people within the industry might already know this, but SMS is really big in the US. Right?
Yeah.
In the UK and in Europe, SMS is a graveyard of promotions. It honestly is. I think I mentioned this to you before. WhatsApp, on the other hand, WhatsApp is really big in the UK and Europe. It's what we use. Obviously, I live in London. You live in Amsterdam. It's what we use to chat daily.
Yes.
Literally, you and me. It's what I used to talk with my mom, with my friends.
Yes.
It's the one-stop shop for personal comms for anyone within Europe and the UK, and it's so not the case in the US, which is unlocking a whole new retention channel for all of these brands within the European markets, and I think that's why it's so exciting.
Definitely, I'm bullish, and they've been saying this basically since Klaviyo London, K-London last year, that they're going to be releasing it. I think they now prioritized it, and it's coming soon. So
yeah, I actually managed to get one of my brands on beta.
Oh, that's
so it's
nice.
really exciting.
Cool.
Yeah,
Cool.
Can't wait to try it. So Omar, explain to everyone what is the difference between delivery rate and deliverability.
So I think there is a misconception, or not a misconception, but a lot of people kind of like confuse the two. And when we go into deliverability and delivery, I think it's good to understand what we're trying to optimize for and what the differences are. So delivery rate or delivery is basically the email gets sent and it gets accepted by the other party in the system. It doesn't mean that it's going to end in the mailbox or in the inbox.
Yep.
Where deliverability is basically about, hey, does it land in that person's mailbox, or is it going to be filtered out by a spam filters or some other thing there? So understanding those two differences, like if you have a wrong email address, for example, it will never get delivered. So it's good to know the differences here, because once you start talking about these things, you're probably going to hit different elements of those two things.
Yeah, and you know, you get so many people looking in Klaviyo at the delivery rate and they see 98 or 99%, and you know, it's funny, but I actually get so many times they're like, oh, our deliverability is fine, we get like 99%. So that, I think, in a very short form, that is literally what the difference we're trying to make here. That's not your deliverability, it's simply that the email got accepted in the inbox and it was I guess a correct email that was actually delivered. Deliverability looks at so much more, and you know, we can dive into this a bit more into the podcast. Cool, all right, so let's talk about bad sending practices that kill your reputation. To me, I'm not gonna cover a bunch of things here. I think one of the main ones is trying to send to unengaged segments on its own. That will 100% kill your reputation. You have to think that spam filters, they have certain behaviors and algorithms. One of the main things that I learned when it comes to deliverability is that when you send an email to, I don't know, 100 people, spam filters will look at what happens within the first few minutes of that email landing in the inbox, right? So they look at if the customer has opened the email fast, or if they deleted the email, or if they deleted the email without opening it, or if they unsubscribed quickly. All of these are signals that the algorithm is taking note of to decide whether you're a trusted sender or not. To decide if the rest of the emails that you're going to send are going to land in the primary inbox, in the promotions tab, or you're going to be in the doom spam box. So it's always better to mix some of your less engaged segments with some of your more engaged segments. And this is where I talked in the last episode actually about the waterfall strategy, which does work if done correctly, where it's the whole point, I guess, of the Engage 30 framework, to send to your engaged segments first, and then to try and engage the other segments that are less engaged, maybe past 90 days into the past, that have not opened or clicked in a while afterwards. This is going to tell your spam filters that you're a trusted sender and you have a better chance of landing it in that inbox. Do you want to add anything here?
Yes, definitely. So the growth hacking mindset, you always try to reverse engineer things to understand
Yeah.
What is impacting things, both in a positive and a negative thing, in a negative way. So if you reverse engineer this, how do inbox providers actually are able to, I don't know, maybe find signals that are both positive or negative? I think the most positive signal you can have is somebody hitting reply and typing out an email back to you.
Yeah.
Having that understanding is okay. That you can start using this in your emails as well, like having something that people start reacting on, because this is a signal that somebody is taking effort, replying to an email, is not unsubscribing, they're not deleting it, they're actually engaging with it. So if they're engaging with it, it must be something that is worthwhile for them. So.
And it's really you can gamify this as well to your advantage, because these are positive signals. If someone
the first 100
replies,
people that reply get a 10% discount. Man,
you joke, but that works.
Yeah.
So
I've not tried it actually.
You haven't tried it. All right, here's one that I tried. Right. So what we've done with this brand is we literally sent customers a riddle, right? So we sent them a riddle. It was like a random Tuesday, 9 a.m. in the morning. It was just like a soft content campaign, nothing too promotional heavy. And the riddle was this sort of chicken's riddle, which the answer was a coop, right? And it was like a really short riddle, and then reply to the email if you know the correct answer. We didn't say they're gonna get a discount. We literally just challenged them if they can guess correctly. We got 483 responses. Right. People even being like, duh, it's a coop. Like people were kind of like feeling offended that we even sent that.
Yeah.
But they don't know that while obviously we know that was a very easy riddle to solve, the goal for us was to engage the customer, and not only from a deliverability technical standpoint, but also the action of replying to a brand. The affinity you develop with that brand instantly, just because you reply to them, you're less likely to feel anything negative towards them in the future and unsubscribe or anything. I might dive into fluffy things here, but that would be my understanding of it.
All right.
Anyway,
cool.
So try it. Let me know how it goes. Definitely put it in the comment section if you've ever done that before. So next one on the list is sending reputation. So what is your sender reputation? We talk about deliverability reputation, we talk about domain reputation, about sender reputation, but what actually is it, and how do domain providers track your sender reputation over time? Now, most people assume that reputation is just about where emails go, but it's so much more deeper than that. Inbox providers like Gmail, Outlook, Yahoo, they don't just look at your domain once, they look at it over time. And they look at a few different things. They obviously look at your domain, like the domain that you're sending from, which is where branding your domain inside Klaviyo, is really important. They look at your IP address. Obviously, for a lot of brands, that would be a shared IP and not a dedicated one. So you're sharing that IP address with a bunch of other brands, and they look at what authority that has. They look at your content, your structure, your design, if you use any like spam words, if you use any templated versions, and obviously something that Omar is going to cover shortly, your authenticated setup, like things like DKIM, DMARC, and SPF. So
I used to run on my own email marketing platform,
You did actually, so why am I talking about this?
I don't know. I just want to see how far you come. But
all right, so go ahead, Omar. Tell us more.
I think the basics is there's just a lot of moving pieces to this, and a lot of this goes under the hood. You don't have control over it. So we're making use of the Klaviyo systems, and they have their deliverability teams that are making sure that our emails are getting sent and hitting the inbox. They are always making sure that IPs are warmed up and things are going correctly, because one can affect the other. So it's always, and I haven't talked to the deliverability teams on this specifically, but I think there are also, like, if you are really going into a bad sender reputation, they will move you to the better neighborhoods of their systems.
Really? So it's like dynamic?
I assume this. So don't take this as a fact, but if I would be running my company and sending emails, I wouldn't want to have somebody that's potentially spamming to have an effect on the ones that have a good sender reputation if we're sending from the same system. So probably they will get throttled, they will get blocked at a certain point, but you don't want to have a negative impact. So it's a balance thing, and probably most of these things will be going automatically. But it's something that the deliverability teams at Klaviyo are constantly, like, this is their credibility as well. So
100%. At the end of the day, their goal is for you to have success with their product.
yes.
So they're probably
otherwise there's no use to using that product.
exactly.
Right?
So if otherwise you churn, you don't pay. Like that's pretty much it. So I think there's probably a limit to which Klaviyo tries their best to keep you in a good sending pot until you maybe do insanely harmful things.
Yes.
At which point your deliverability will tank. This kind of goes into our next point as well. So the main misconfiguration, obviously as of February of this year, Omar, every single brand on the planet has to set up these things. So what does every single brand that joins Klaviyo have to do as a first step when it comes to setting up their domain?
Well, just go into Klaviyo and go to the deliverability section of the Klaviyo in the settings. It will guide itself. If you follow those instructions, you'll be good.
Yep.
But there's always a but.
There's always a but.
It can be really easily that you misconfigure something.
Got it.
To give you an example, we had a client that, I don't know, all of a sudden, all their emails were going to spam. Like their open rates dropped from 40 to like 5%.
Wow.
It was a nightmare to solve because we couldn't find a real reason why this was happening. It wasn't until we found out that with a DMARC, you have an option to say what
the quarantine level.
The receiving end should do if a domain is not trusted or if it's not part of the allowed domains. And I don't know, I think somebody moved the domains and they set the P to quarantine instead of P as none.
Yeah.
It took a lot of research to find that something changed.
It's
Nobody
like finding
knew.
a needle in a haystack.
No, it was. So there are mistakes that can be made out of your control.
Yeah.
So make sure that you follow these things through. And from what I have seen right now, Klaviyo is monitoring this as well. So if something is happening with a misconfiguration, they will actually proactively let you know about this. But basically making sure that all these things are set up correctly. And I will go into the next part, maybe the dedicated click URL, or maybe you talk about it and then I think the dedicated click URL, just to add to it.
Yep.
If you're sending from a specific domain, all the links that are in your email normally get something like track.klaviyo email.com.
Yep.
And there's like a Klaviyo link in there. If you're sending emails, you're sending from yourdomain.com and the links in that email don't align always, it's also something that they look at a deeper level. So we've not configured this for most of our clients, but there's an option that you can also customize and have branded URL. So whenever somebody clicks on it, it is like click.yourdomain.com, basically.
That gives you more trust in with spam filters as well, right? Because I know as well that if you add too many redirects within the links that you're adding in your email, that's also a negative signal for spam filters. They don't like that, and they will see that as something suspicious.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, again, you're the one who owns his own ASP. A lot of pressure here.
Not feeling the pressure, but I think they will, in the end, also start opening up these links. So they're also checking for malware. Like they also want to protect the end users.
Yeah.
So if there's a lot of trying to manipulate the system, they will pick up onto this thing. So
yeah, they do. Okay, cool. Let's move to the next one. Next one I want to talk about is smart sending. You use smart sending a lot in Klaviyo?
Nah.
Because when I came to one of your Amsterdam meetups, I didn't used to use smart sending, and I always tried to figure out these exclusion segments. And I remember one segment that you said everyone should use, which changed my strategy completely.
Yeah.
So
go ahead. What did I say?
So this is the tip, right? So do not use smart sending. Smart sending might feel like it's a safe choice on the surface, and no offense to Klaviyo product team, but it does limit the people you can send to. Now think about it like this. Before I tell the tip, I'm gonna put a bit of context. Think about it like this. Someone has just joined your list a few days ago. They're in the welcome flow, and some email marketers might say you want to protect that journey because you don't want to interrupt their welcome flow journey by sending a campaign. Now, I'm going to be controversial. I'm going to say that if you look at the data and you know that most people are likely to convert within the first 24 to 48 hours, and most people after the 10-day mark, if they haven't made an order, they're very unlikely to come back, right? It drops to like 0 point percentages. if you have some sort of big promo campaign, Memorial Day sale, 40% off, free gifts, why would you not want to send that campaign to your recently acquired subscriber that might be more inclined to purchase from this brand new incentive that you have, as opposed to just the 10% off from the welcome flow, right? So you might say, yeah, but our website will already be branded with the Memorial Day sale. Yeah, fine, but that doesn't mean the person is going to visit your website, the website on their own. The goal is to get the click. So anyway, that's why I think smart sending isn't productive in a sense.
I have a different view on this. I started off with using this segment to actually start doing some, cleaning up. Because sometimes you have all these automations running and you don't have a clue that there might be two automations running at the same time. So for me, it was a way to start filtering out and looking at, hey, what's happening here? If we have a lot of people that are getting 2 or 3 emails at the same time, which is something that does happen.
A lot.
Especially
I was shocked how many people we had in that segment when I created it.
Yeah, it's a really good place to start cleaning up your flows and starting up to setting good filters on things to prevent people from receiving too many emails. Because like going on a date, you got back and that person starts calling you every hour, you'll be like, no, this guy's harassing me, this girl's harassing me. It's like, okay, wait, something's wrong. So at the same time, the same thing with emails. I mean, it needs to balance out. It doesn't need to be too much, it doesn't need to be too little, but it is something that have a segment in there that allows you to see this. And how you're using this as well as a way to protect.
Yeah.
Like you're excluding that in a campaign, for example.
Yeah.
I think that's really smart.
Yeah. Most of our campaigns, regardless, even if it's like an educational blog, whatever, we exclude. If someone this is kind of what my point was. Your point makes a lot of sense as well. But like, if someone has received 3 emails, they don't need to receive another one, right? Like they can go after that 24-hour mark.
Yeah, not in 24 hours.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
Yeah,
that's true.
Yeah.
There might be a reason why they're receiving more emails. So it's also
Yeah.
be smart about it.
Yeah.
Understand what the data is saying.
Very important to know. We're talking about smart sending and campaigns here. Smart sending and flows may have its use, depending on a case-by-case basis. I'm also not a big fan of using it in flows, to be fair.
No, I actually anything that's more of a. So I always look and this if we were talking about frameworks.
Yeah.
I also like to look at the customer journey. The closer they are to a transaction, the higher importance I want to have
on that email.
On that email. So if it's a cart abandonment, it's like so close to, or checkout abandonment, so close to the actual transaction, no smart sending at all.
Yep.
If it's more,
it's like active on site.
Yeah.
Which I don't really use that flow, to be fair, but yeah, it's being used a lot lately. You want to have smart sending there. It's like it's not an email that's urgent to go out. Checkout abandonment is like very close to the purchase in the funnel.
That's my way of thinking, my framework that I'm using. Like how close is this and how important is this? Is it okay if it gets missed? And certain things you will say yes, otherwise you say no. So smart sending by itself, I mean, you can configure the amount of hours you want to travel there. It does depend a little bit on how many emails you're sending. But you can also do the same thing with segments and maybe say, okay, these people, I always want to exclude them from campaigns, because I know they're in an important thing and we don't want to actually remove them from that. But be smart about it.
Yeah, we talked in our last episode as well about excluding recent customers. I think there's just know your data
and test out.
Yeah.
We basically said in the last thing, like, you have beliefs, challenge them.
Yeah, challenge them. Don't just assume things because you've
heard it on the Klaviyo Geeks.
I was gonna say because you heard it in some podcast. We give you some guidelines. It's up to you how
with
you
the information that we have right now.
Yeah,
exactly. It might change in a half a year again. So.
Yeah, with the level of the pace of innovation nowadays, like this might be outdated by tomorrow.
Yeah.
But anyway, next up is resends, which are also, in my point of view, huge to your deliverability. Because what happens when you send an email campaign? Let's say it's a big promo email, Black Friday. And you want to keep that momentum going. You're having great click rate, great revenue on that campaign. You don't want to miss out on essentially not sending that email again, maybe in the evening or the following morning. So what do? You want to resend that email campaign. Now, that is fine, except in the past, what happened is that a lot of brands and agencies and freelancers tend to send to people that haven't opened, on the assumption that if they haven't opened the email, then they're not going to be hurt by receiving another one. Now, why is that not good, Omar? Why should people not send to non-opens as a resend? And what should they do instead?
Frameworks the way I think is, what signal is that group giving? They're not engaging with your emails.
Exactly.
And you're basically resending an email to people that didn't engage in the first time. It might have been because it was not the right time. But if you look at it from a signal perspective, I would definitely try to find the ones that actually had some sort of interaction, maybe went to the site, clicked on the email but didn't buy.
Yep.
Because that's a positive signal as well. So at least combine these two groups.
Yep.
Or
Exactly.
if you do, create two segments, open that email, didn't buy, didn't open that email, and see for yourself, once you send that resend campaign, see what the conversions have been.
Like, which one is going to bring more money?
Which one worked best?
Yeah.
Because you can basically, and that's a good tip by the way, creating different segments, adding them to your campaign, even if there's like some sort of overlap somewhere, it will allow you to see what the performance of that email had on your campaign.
Yeah.
Sometimes that gives you new ideas and new information that you can piggyback off on.
Yeah, 100%. And that is the main tip of this portion. Don't send to non-opens. At best, send to everyone that has opened, clicked, but not purchased. Not only will you save your deliverability, because again, if you're sending, even if you're like, especially if you're sending in the same day to people that haven't opened, you're once again telling those spam filters that you're sending to the same people that haven't opened in the morning. That is a negative signal. They won't like that. You most likely will damage that sending reputation for the day. And I guarantee, even from a non-deliverability standpoint, that you're probably going to make more revenue from just resending to everyone. So
Test, always test.
Always test, yeah. We don't want to make too many assumptions.
So there's a specific case a recent client came up with. All right, so in Europe, it's allowed to send an email to your customers, basically. Yeah. Even if they're subscribed or not subscribed to marketing. If you need to do a product recall, whatever, you're allowed to communicate with your customers as long as it's not marketing. Now, this customer, they were making some changes to their loyalty program, and they needed to send out emails to customers that did unsubscribe already.
Okay.
How
that
would you
unsubscribed?
Yes, but they needed to send it out. People not on the list, they were actually suppressed.
Okay. They unsubscribed willingly, these people, not suppressed.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm stuck. I don't know. What did they do?
Well, it was an interesting case because for me, like if they unsubscribe for a reason. So trying to send to customers that might have bought 3 years ago just doesn't make sense. But they had some really important terms and conditions update that these people that were on that loyalty program needed to be made aware about. So what we've basically come up with is, I'm not sure if I don't know. So the way I looked at this is
just say without saying it.
Yeah. So I'm not sure I'm gonna say without saying, but what we came up with is basically send to all the people that are subscribed. Send it. You're allowed to send emails to your customers. The specific group of customers that actually unsubscribed, it was a good thing. It was a smaller portion, a really small portion. Filter out all the people that actually had hard bounce, like kind of like things that are on the delivery side of things, it wouldn't actually deliver to the provider. So filter those out and then resend, import those again, subscribe, and then unsubscribe afterwards again. So add them to the list, make sure that they are giving, like the consent is checked, send that email, which is not marketing email, but basically an update of the terms and conditions, which is, I'm not a legal person, but at least I know that this is allowed.
Yeah.
But check with your legal persons just to be sure for Europe, and then remove them again because you don't want to have them living in your list if they were actually suppressed
that's
before.
a high risk.
So
yeah.
it was a really interesting thing to have. So how do you balance deliverability and make sure that you're not going to be sending out something that's actually hurting your reputation?
That would actually, that's a risk on your deliverability. Those people,
Yes,
if they unsubscribe, and especially if they unsubscribe recently, I would say that if they unsubscribed a long time ago, they might not have the same frustration feelings, but I would be annoyed, and I might mark your email as spam.
It is something. It's a test that they're doing right now to see. A good thing is that the bigger list was like the ones that were subscribed and were active customers. So we'll see. It's something
one,
that's happening. So what else do we have?
We're actually going to wrap up. So I was going to talk about our new website, which is live now.
Yeah.
KlavioGeeks.com.
Check it out.
Check it out. You can listen to all of our episodes there. You can see some
Can they already subscribe?
They can subscribe.
Yeah?
Yeah.
All right, you can subscribe to our new mailing list.
On our website to our newsletter, action-packed newsletters delivered straight to your inbox. That's going to pass through the deliverability checks because we know what we're doing.
Yeah.
Right. And you can find all the episodes there. There's a couple of blogs there. So I'm going to be very honest with our audience. I turned our episodes into blogs. So if you want to read the same things that we're explaining through our episodes, you can also just go to our blog. Give a share as well. It helps. And then I was going to say that on our website, there's now a section called resources, and they can download lead magnets and cool resources that we're going to put out. Like, I think we're going to launch pretty soon, maybe some of the things that we talked in past episodes as well that people can download. So today, we've put together a deliverability checklist, which Omar still has to approve and look over, but it will be looked at before this episode goes live. So it's essentially kind of everything that we've talked in this episode, plus a bunch more other things.
There's one more thing that I'm going to cover still, but
Omar's going to cover one more thing, and you can download it right now. If you go in the description tab, go to KlavioGeeks.com, go to resources, download the deliverability checklist. There's Notion boards with step-by-step instructions on how to set up your DMARC, how to set up your SPF, and how to do different things, how to create the right segments. I would say that it's quite a gold nugget.
Yeah,
I'm just going to say it.
So we're sharing all the things for free, so
go
check it out.
If you
don't like it, let us know what you don't like, and we can always improve that. 100%. If you do like it, do give a thumbs up, share it on other places, and help us grow this community or this cool Klaviyo Geeks podcast.
We're going really fast as well. Like we have so many followers on LinkedIn, YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts.
It's catching on. So
thank you so much, guys. Thank you. Like, this is great, and we're loving it. We like doing this.
Yeah, definitely. Are we going to do a different country every podcast? It's going to be expensive.
That's going to be expensive. We need to get
sponsor.
a sponsor.
That wants to fly us
Anyone
around.
Watching this wants to sponsor the podcast, get in touch with us. hello@KlavioGeeks.com. We'll make sure the email address is set up.
We'll visit conferences and do meetups or do the podcast there. All right, so the last tip that I want to give, and this is my framework, the way that I think. So on the very high end, you have your domain, which is your authority. It's like your domain thing. If you're a really big company, multi-million, like 100 million plus, like big list, 1 million, 2 million, like
profiles
or more, it might be at a certain point, it might be interesting and important to start splitting your internal domain that you're using for your whole company and that domain that you're using to send your marketing emails from. Yeah. Because if something gets in the spam, the worst thing you want to happen is maybe the transactional parts are starting to also get filled, or like the things that are coming out of your e-commerce platform, for example, or your support emails that don't get delivered. So you need to protect, or even internal emails for the company.
Yeah.
If they start getting to spam and it's not getting to the...
that happened to one of my clients a few years back. It sucked. Yeah, that's a great tip. So would you say it's like when you get really big, you have like, should you like have one domain for transactional, one domain for marketing, one domain for internal?
What I normally see is that you keep the domain, so it's like KlavioGeeks.com, but you then add email.klaviogeeks.com, and that's going to be the whole domain, and you then add whatever, so it's actually a subdomain,
right? Okay,
which becomes the main domain you're sending from,
and that still protects your main KlavioGeeks.com.
And if you're receiving emails from bigger brands, start looking at this, because you probably will see that some of them are sending emails from hello@email.domain.com.
So they have multiple ones.
Yeah, so it's actually it's a longer domain.
Right.
That's one of the things you can do. The other tip I'm also always thinking about is, on the high level you have the domain name. On the lower levels you'll have email addresses as well. So also on the email addresses, and this is not a hard fact, but I want to split up transactional email, have a specific email address that's transactional, have a specific email address that's more for maybe automations, and one for campaigns. Sometimes campaigns and automation you can combine, but also that is something that allows you to create some sort of reputation. And you don't want your transactional emails to actually land in the wrong folders either. So for me, that's a bit of the framework or model that I'm using in my head to kind of like split up things and make sure that we are kind of like spreading.
Is there any framework we can give our audience? Anything you can put together in due course?
Yeah, maybe I can. It's what I said basically. I can type it out.
Okay. Cool. Awesome.
So,
dropping the value bombs here, man.
at the end.
The elite of deliverability, I would say. Cool. Well, thanks so much for listening in, guys. This was episode 4 of Klaviyo Geeks. Don't forget to subscribe. Don't forget to comment. Give us a 5-star rating if you're listening on Spotify, which I know that's most of our audience right now. It really helps put the podcast higher into the rankings.
Yes.
We're really, really grateful for everyone tuning in, and we're going to come at you with more and more episodes and more value-packed information.
Definitely, and like on the back of this, if you've been hit by, I don't know, if your deliverability dropped really bad,
Get in touch.
Get in touch. But this probably will be another episode as well.
Yeah.
Because if you're in that problem, there are some Klaviyo resources. Maybe we can link to that as well.
We'll link some
that
Klaviyo
allow you
resources.
to kind of like reverse that and improve it. But that's, I think, a whole episode by its own. So I was just thinking, wait, what questions might the audience still have?
Yeah.
And this might be one. Like, shit, my deliverability is completely down the drain. How do I recover that? But we'll get back to that.
I think because that is a whole monster of its own.
Yes.
On like the things
We'll
that you
create
might
a
have to
different
do.
podcast on that.
We'll talk about that. This was about the mistakes that brands are doing. We're gonna have a different episode talking about what you should do to recover, because it is possible. The hope is not lost, right?
No, definitely.
You can get back on track. So anyway, thanks so much for watching. My name is Bogdan, co-host Klaviyo Geeks.
I'm Omar, also co-host from Klaviyo Geeks and also founder of Polaris. Don't forget to like, to subscribe, and also share this podcast. You'll be doing us a huge favor, and we're doing this just out of passion, of email, out of passion for Klaviyo. It's
I would say that, yeah. So goodbye from sunny Valencia.
All right, let's take a dive.